please start the session. Babuji.
Namaskar. Party, welcome to Bismatic Literary Festival being organized by Sahitya Academy and Foundation of SARC Writers and Literature, FOSWAL. So before I call upon the chair of this today's session, my humble and sincere pranams to Ma'am Ajit Kaur Ma'am, and I sincerely welcome all the viewers and the participants to this 8th session of this online literary festival. And this 8th session is dedicated to fiction reading. And in this, each one is been allotted with 15 minutes to present their fiction. And this session is going to be chaired by Dr. Sohana Manzoorji from Bangladesh. And in this session, we have Ms. Jharna Rahmanji from Bangladesh, Indu Menon Prarthanaji from India, Hamra Qureshi from India, Anupam Damayanti from Sri Lanka, and I think the chair of today's session, she herself is going to present her fiction too. Now may I request the chair, Dr. Sohana Manzoorji, to kindly take over the session.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. And this is really a wonderful opportunity for all of us. And I will just say a little bit about FOSWAL, like it has been, as I was looking at the achievements of FOSWAL so far. So it has been 35 years since FOSWAL has been trying to create this cultural bonding in the SAARC region, and so far has organized over 30 major SAARC cultural and literary events, festivals of folklore, conferences on Buddhism and Sufism in all the countries of the SAARC region. For the current president and writer Ajit Kaurji, who has been honored with Padma Shri Award, this is a lifelong commitment. She is a cultural pioneer in this region. As a writer, has been involved in conservation of environment through her writing, also focused on preserving historical, literary, and cultural heritage. And these conferences keep on happening through these difficult times, even due to her unwavering efforts. And I'm honored to be here today on this wonderful occasion. And I thank Ajit ma'am for inviting me and allowing me to preside over this session. So at this point, I would like to invite our first reader, Ms. Jharna Rahman, and who is a well-known writer from my very own country, Bangladesh. So my only request to everybody, please keep your reading within 15 minutes. Otherwise, it will eat away into other people's reading time. Thank you, Jharna ma'am. Please.
আমাকে শোনা যাচ্ছে ডক্টর সোহানা?
জি, শোনা যাচ্ছে।
Thank you very much to all. Most respected Ajit Kaurji, the Honorable President of FOSWAL, I'm very much happy to see her present in this session. Respected Dr. Sohana Manzoor, a well-known writer of Bangladesh, now chairing this session. Eminent writers from India and Sri Lanka, the other viewers and listeners who are present now virtually, very good afternoon to all. I'm very glad and grateful and feel honored to be here, got an opportunity to present my story in this prestigious program, FOSWAL Literature Festival, with the participation of BIMSTEC countries. Thanks to Ajit ji, gratefully for this, thanks to Sahitya Academy. Now I'm going to read my story. This is just mini story, and I think I'll be able to finish reading within the time range. The title of my story is The Remains of Religion, translated by Marjia Rahman. 4 women gave birth to 4 children in the same maternity ward around the same time on the same day. Coincidentally, all the 4 children were males. The women belonged to different religions: Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist, and Christian. The nurses wiped the babies clean, wrapped them in towels, and put them on a soft bed in the nursery room. They carefully fastened the identification number plates to the baby's wrists. Another plate with the same number was given to the mothers. An older nurse came and wrote the parent's name, religion, and gender next to the baby's number in a registered copy. These were the sole birth identities of the children. The young nurses left to take care of the new mothers, leaving the babies in the older nurse's care. After the nurse finished writing the identifications, she came to stand near the babies. She found the towel-wrapped babies deep into sleep. She could see the beautiful 4 faces like flowers from inside the towels. No one could tell if they didn't know beforehand which one was a boy or a girl. The nurse knew all 4 of them were males. She wrote down their religious identities too in the copy. But if she didn't tell, no one would know which one was Muslim or Hindu or Buddhist or Christian amongst them. She suddenly thought, what if the number plates were exchanged while nursing or giving them birth? Maybe the Hindu baby would go to the Muslim mother or the Muslim baby to the Buddhist mother. The nurse thought that God had sent them as babies with the same male organs. He had not given them any other signs. She was so engrossed in her thoughts that after a while, she absent-mindedly took the number plates off the baby's wrists. She put them on the table, staring at them. She thought these were the only birth identifications, the guide to lead different lives. Each child belonged to parents of different religions by birth, which would dictate their different religious practices, names, titles, costumes, and other activities for the rest of their lives. But what if none of this existed? All these thoughts made her very tired, and she fell asleep, putting her head on the table. When it was time to give the babies to their mothers, the young nurses came and found the babies without the number plates. They couldn't identify which child belonged to which mother. There was a huge uproar. The older nurse woke up and felt utterly puzzled. She repeatedly admitted her mistakes. But what is the use of acknowledging the mistake now? And what's the point of losing their jobs when they still couldn't identify the children? The nurses felt terrified. It was a sheer negligence of duty. The authority would sack them all. The parents would file police cases. The nurses would surely end up in a prison. They decided this news should not go outside. So they quickly tied the number plates to the children's wrists. They just needed to give the babies to the mothers with the matching number plates. Since all the children were male, there wouldn't be any problem on that account. But when the nurses took the number plates, which were all put together to fasten to the baby's wrists, the plates got misplaced. Maybe the Hindu boy got the Muslim boy's number and the Muslim boy got the Hindu boy's number. The Christian boy got the Buddhist boy's number, and the Buddhist boy got the Christian boy's number. Seeing this topsy-turvy situation, even God might have smiled too. However, the mothers faced no problem whatsoever. They had given birth to boy children. They had got boy children in their laps now. They hadn't seen their babies' faces before either. Besides, all newborn babies look almost alike. The mothers looked lovingly at the beautiful faces of their babies and fed them. A fountain of mists. While breastfeeding her baby, the Hindu mother noticed her son's penis didn't have a foreskin. The doctor assured her that a lot of babies don't have them. It's a physical deformation, not a religious sign. The next day, the nurses came to take the babies to birth them. The mothers feared that the babies might get exchanged during birth time due to the carelessness of the nurses. So the mothers drew signs like Alif, Swastika, cross, and Dharma Chakra with unerasable ink on the foreheads or palms of their babies. The 4 babies were now identified by 4 different signs. After the birth, the mothers were happy to get their babies back with the religious marks. Meanwhile, the Buddhist mother's baby got an infection in his penis, which made the doctor circumcise him. At the time of discharge, the parents had to write down their babies' names on the release letters. The babies were given religious titles, and now they were clearly separated by their surnames. As the babies grew up, they began to adopt different kinds of changes. They dressed differently, they performed different religious practices, and they celebrated different festivals. They introduced themselves: I am Hindu, I am Muslim, I am Buddhist, I am Christian. And when the time came, the Muslim parents had their son circumcised. The Hindu parents performed the Yajna, a ritual done in front of the sacred fire with mantras. The Christian parents too circumcised their son and sent him to a priest to baptize. And the Buddhist parents take their son to a monk and perform the hard ritual known as Chidarbam. Chibardhan. At one point, those 4 boys become religious gurus. They also become the heads of their worship places. They gained supreme power and owned a lot of wealth. Each of them had plenty of fans and followers, disciples and devotees. They all built a number of prayers houses to spread their supremacy of their religions. They set up different kinds of rules, regulations, practices, and festivals. A power struggle slowly started between them. The political forces drew them into their groups. The 4 men themselves soon turned into political leaders. Religion became a tool of political power. Adverse attitude towards other religion resulted into hostility, which in turn led to hatred, jealousy, and clashes, and then a riot started. The riots spread to the leaders' countries. The people of one religion began to kill indiscriminately the innocent people of the other religion. They burned the houses, the worship places, the shops, the markets, and the business establishments, and looting continued unabated. The clashes between different religions horrified the world conscious. A united religious committee instructed the 4 leaders to sit together and come up with a solution first to establish peace. The leaders assembled their supporters, proclaiming the supremacy of their own religion. They said, the main mantra of our religion is to show empathy towards each other. Only our religion is the best religion. None of them said that all humans are equal, that all religions are equal. None of them said that different religions have come to the world for the well-being of mankind, not the other way around. No one said that no religion is superior or inferior to the other religion. Every believer considers their religion as the best. As they continued to brag the supremacy of their own religions, the fighting increased. And when the religious gurus sat together for a peace talk, their extremist followers brought swords, daggers, chapati, knives in secret and waited in ambush. When the leaders couldn't come to a consensus, they began to argue fiercely. Taking this opportunity, the assassins attacked the meeting. It was bloodbath and corpses spilled up. The dead bodies were found lying everywhere. Arrangements were made to bury the corpses according to the religions and after verifying their clothes. But 4 bodies were found without heads. Their clothes were removed too.
I think Charnaka's connection probably got cut off or something. She just froze. So, and her time is also up. Should I?
Yeah, you can go to the other one.
Yeah. Okay, so next I invite Ms. Indu Menon Prarthana from India to read her story.
Good morning, all. I'm a writer from Kerala and the southern part of India, and I'm writing in my own language, which is known as Malayalam. And the story my story is D, and is translated by Nanda Kumar J, who is a very famous translator who got JCB prize last year. He translated my whole, some of my short stories in English, named Lesbian Cow and other stories. So I'm going to read a portion of my story. The story name is D. He felt a chill when he heard the jubilant crowd. His arms were fatigued from holding up a 2-pound candle in each hand. The molten wax dripped on his hand and scalded him.
Hello?
Hello?
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. My electricity has gone out, and now it's okay. Can I read this last part? Just small part. My story. Okay. Okay. Can I finish my story?
Yeah, I think you can finish in 1 minute so that the conclusion.
Okay.
Indu Menon ji,
Okay. Thank you very much.
No issue.
Okay. Very much. Thank you very much. The funeral workers noticed that were they all Muslims? A group of experts said that some Christian tribes also circumcised their sons. The physicians say that some boys are born without foreskins, and sometimes a child develops an infection which require circumcision. So it's not possible to verify which doesn't have foreskin. This led to another argument between the extremists. Then a group of moderate believers proposed to seek advice from a sage known as Amphitrite. Everyone agreed to heed the sage's advice. The search for a Trikaldoshi took them to an old woman who lived in a faraway mountains area. No one could tell how old she was. The woman looked at the bodies closely. She suddenly remembered an incident which took place 60 or 70 years ago. She brought a page of a registered copy out of her torn shoulder bag. It had the record of the birth identity and registration numbers of some babies. Showing the page to them, she said that these 4 men belonged to 4 different religions, but they were created as humans. Humans have only one identity. It's people who gave themselves different identities and separate them. Both humans and animals take birth above the soil. When they die, their bodies mix with the soil again. So bury them under the soil. But the extremists refused to accept her advice. Moreover, they accused her of committing a great sin. She had ruined those 4 persons' religions by hiding their religious identities. She was put on a first trial and was sentenced to death. At the time of her burial, the authorities found themselves into a fresh trouble. There was no religious identity found in her body. She was wearing a typical feminine dress too. No one could tell this old woman's religion who lived alone in the solitude of a mountain. Hence, the 5 bodies were my stories, and thank you very much. It is finished reading. Can you hear me?
Yeah, fine. Thank you.
Yes,
With the permission of the
I finished.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, Indu Menon, Prarthana ji, kindly continue. Sorry to disturb.
Yeah, my name is only Indu Menon. Pratana is my house name. I don't know how it comes
That's great.
along with that. That's really funny.
That's great.
Okay, the story's name is D, and I'm reading a portion of that particular story. The translation was done by Nandakumar J. He felt a chill when he heard the jubilant crowd. His arms were fatigued from holding up a 2-pound candles in each hand. The molten wax dripped on his hands and scalded him, skin and wax melding together. Samson dug the pincers into his hand, pressed and pulled out his flesh. Samson felt that Damien's flesh was soft like ripe apple. He tightened his grip on the pincers. Damien's thin skin peeled off like the petals of a hibiscus flower, and his flesh clung to the tip of the pincers. Damien screamed and pulled back. He bit his lips till they bled. He roared like a wild beast. The pain gave him goosebumps. His nipples were like fresh rosebuds, yet untouched by sunlight. Samson applied the pincers on his left nipple, which his lover used to kiss with her withered lips and people painlessly during their lovemaking. Samson's beak-like pincers plucked out from his supple tie, supple thighs, the muscles of his chest, and dimples on his abdomen. He shrieked in pain, my God, please forgive me. Tamil is the elixir. Tamil means mother. Unable to lift her broken neck, Pashumala writhed in agony. In the peacekeeping force camp, the only outsiders were the three of them, Dipagaran, Tamil Chelvi, and herself. Chelvi lay there like a heap of tattered clothes under a swarm of flies. There wasn't a spot on her body unmarked by the dog's teeth and claws. Looking at Caesable, a burrow-like deep wound on the left side of her neck, Pashumala wanted to scream. Noticing that her windpipe wasn't moving, she realized that Shelby was dead. Pashumala calculated that the time was close to dawn. Major Sundar Ramaswamy Iyengar, Major Malhotra, the second and other soldiers continued to torture Dipagaran. Amma, in the museum, here there is a ring with D inscribed on it. It's like the ring that Appa has. When I imagine Damien's torture, I am reminded of Appa. Amma, you aren't in trouble, are you? I'm afraid. Through her eyes full of tears and with her vision blocked by her hair, Pashumala saw Damien's instead of Dipagaran. The hot fumes of sulfur were burning his right hand. They kept haranguing him, asking, hadn't he used that hand to stab the king? Didn't you? Didn't you use this hand to decapitate my brother? Samson scooped up the molten black lead like he wound ladle of soup. He poured it over Damien's wound. He kept pouring the molten lead and wax into each of the wounds as if were medicinal concoction. Pashumala closed her eyes tightly. It was his life. It was being yanked out. His life was coming out in pieces through the flesh plucked out by the pincers. They were his life's wound that were being opened up, and molten tar sufficient to vaporize blood was being poured into them. Boiling lead was being platted. My God, Jesus, forgive me, grant me absolution. Pashumala also cried with Damien. Tamil is elixir. Tamil means mother. The vigor in Dipagaran's voice shocked Pashumala. The sulfur struck through him. It sets Damien's public hair aflame like a wildfire. He had an erection as if a woman had fondled him. Samson knocked it with the sharp knob of the iron ring on his finger, mocking him. His testicles had the slight warmth of an egg being hatched by the mother bird. Samson squashed the bird's egg with extreme savagery. Damien's scrotal sac dropped with an explosive sound. What kind of damnation is this? Samson wiped his hands, sticky with blood on his upper garment. Damn! He pressed his boot above and bloodied sack. With the ease of grinding tender petals, he squashed Damien's penis under his boot on the floor. My God, Pashumala also wailed along with Damien's and Dipagaran. Tamil is the elixir. Tamil means mother. Dipagaran's voice was dying out. The crowd was cheering. Do it, do it. Ah, they screamed in their intoxication. The writing form of Damien's energized them. They kept bellowing their encouragement and appreciation for what was on show. Kill him. They pointed at the victim. Pashumala crawled on her belly to reach Dipagaran. She kissed and embraced him, crying miserably. The fire embraced her in return. Kill him, she howled, looking at the soldiers. Authority is not greedy. Authority is never taken by surprise. It kills citizens slowly. First his rights, then his justice. Only after that is he physically killed. Authority will stand by with patience and without any desire to indulge. When the public in their frenzy with toy with a man for their amusement, knocking him about as would a cat its prey. Then authority move in politely when the time is right. Authority hearing green is wheeled by a sweet smile. A horse was tied to each of Damien's limbs. Four white, strong, tall, proud-looking stallions. The white was cracked. They pulled apart in four directions, quaterning, tearing him into four pieces. The sounds of the bonds getting displaced were lost in the hysteric of the crowd. The ululation of the crowd became louder. Kill, kill, kill. They clapped their hands faster and faster and egged the executioner on. It's only a part of my story. The story is too big. So I'm just putting a full stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Indumanan. That was a very, I don't know, I was probably making facial expressions, like they were really, really powerful. Thank you. So next, I'm requesting Ms. Humra Qureshi from India to read from her piece.
Ma'am, kindly unmute the audio.
Yeah, sure.
No, audio, okay, fine. I'm sending one message. Unmute
And
the
you
audio.
need to-
Yeah, can
Yes.
you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
I can. I
Can you
can
hear
hear
me?
you. Now it's fine.
Okay. Foremost, hello and salams to Ajit Kaur Sahiba, and hello and to the viewers and my fellow writers. I'm really happy to be here on this platform. I'll just start off with the story. It's from one of my short story collections. The story is titled, am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's absolutely fine.
The story is titled As the Neem Tree Fell, the Delivery Boy Came Up. It was a stormy, turbulent night, but we had continued sitting unmoving from the veranda of the ancestral koti, staring at the tall neem trees, at those branches swaying wildly amidst the unabated fury of the strong winds. Discussing the clan's obsession with the healing powers to the neem tree. What with several of my cousins prefixing Hakim to their names, along with delving deep into the study of medical properties to the neem tree. Even that night, as my cousins kept talking nonstop of the long list of virtues to the neem, it keeps at bay termites, diabetes, tooth decay, infections. Suddenly, a sudden commotion. One of the neem trees fell. Perhaps the thud wasn't particularly harsh as it fell on the adjoining shrubs. More than the noise, what hit was my maternal grandmother Amna Hussain Sahiba's shriek. Before she could shriek any further, another neem tree fell. Surveying the falling trees, along with that consoling herself and the rest of us, falling on their own, not that we cut and chopped. Never cut a tree, never. Shah Rukh had once done that, hell it was. Detailing those offshoots when a younger brother, Shah Rukh, had chopped off a neem tree growing in the courtyard. Shah Rukh had gone on and on that the tree was blocking sunlight. Suddenly, he took to cutting its lofty branches, and by the time the axe hit the trunk, blood was on that axe. Yes, blood was trickling down, and with those with those Malis and Chaukidars shrieking that jinns lived on that tree. Did jinns really live on that neem tree? Jinns did live on those branches, but they didn't take revenge. After all, jinns are not jallads. They understood my brother's recklessness. But then to make up for that, we took to planting as many trees as possible. She looked about at those trees with an array of emotions. Never ever trouble a neem. It's loaded. Loaded? Yes, with virtues. That night, when another neem tree fell, efforts were put in full swing to fetch the aging Hakim Haider Hussain Sahib from his Haveli, perhaps to mourn the loss of the freshly fallen trees, a collective mourning. A rickshaw was arranged to fetch him. After all, he was the oldest surviving member of the clan. He arrived armed with a small torch and a big lantern. Looking somewhat flustered, the first thing he did was to walk to the fallen trees, not too sure whether he was muttering a Fatiha prayers or condolences or both. As the night progressed, we heard a whole lot of jinn stories from him in that ongoing way till about noon. He'd come to spend only a few hours at our ancestral koti, but nobody would let him go back. And come afternoon, he looked impatient and tense as his wife had sent a neatly folded one-page letter through an unemployed boy, Zeb, who had lived in one of the outer rooms to his Haveli. The couple possessed no car, no telephone, and none of the connecting bandobas. So this note was sent to him before she herself arrived in other of these rickshaws, throwing about angry looks at him before bursting out. You left me back, been waiting for you enough. All our plants, trees, and creepers are waiting for you. Whilst we smirked, he didn't look amused and decided to get back immediately. And even when my grandmother insisted that he and his wife stay back till the evening, they spoke of their plants missing them as though their very offspring. Before stepping out, they asked if my sisters and I wanted to spend a couple of days in their Haveli. Come along, we will cook lots of tarkaris growing in your backyard. There'll be Ronak in our Haveli, childless we, but that doesn't mean we dislike laughter. Sense of relief as the rickshaw started turned towards the Haveli. Well inside the gates, green stood out. The couple walked around their plants, shrubs, fruit trees, saplings, creepers, watering them with a rubbery, crumbling pipe before announcing it was time for the much-needed tea break. Pulling out a rickety table, rushing in and out of the kitchen with cups brimming with chai and a wooden tray overloaded with homemade atta cookies. Dipping the cookies in the chai, we sat all too attentive, hearing them detail the significance of leaves and flowers and plants. These jamun leaves control blood sugar levels. Pan pattas great for digestion and diabetes. Bel patthar leaves heal intestines. Guava leaves the best possible remedy for throaty problems. Before we could digest the long list of benefits to those leaves, a small assembly gathered around, withered-looking mohalla walas desperately in need of relief from pains, coughs, colds, skin eruptions, and boils. And as he and she began handing them leaves and flowers from this or that plant for this or that ailment, the commentary continued. Nature's bounty to everyday disorders in this disorderly system. Looking at the assembly walas in that concerned way, these they said these people were once thriving, but now only poverty thrives here. So much poverty. Anyway, doing all that we can do for them. That night, as we slept on the cots in the courtyard, the quiet lay ruptured by shrieks coming from not too far. Much too bewildered, we sat up, even as this couple went on assuring and reassuring. Nothing to worry, nothing at all to worry. Nothing dangerous happening. Zeb's Begum's delivery time. Arrival of a new life comes with much effort. Before walking towards the outer rooms to the Haveli where Zeb lived with his wife. In the next minute or so, this couple were carrying a young woman with a hugely protruding stomach, making her lie on a cot. They kept rubbing her hands and feet and also resettling the shalwar kameez on her. Seeing a curiosity, we were told rather too repeatedly to move to the living room. Why should we sleep inside? Because a baby is arriving, you will see the baby only in the morning. Now we are getting busy taking out the baby. Why can't we help you? before they could react to our ongoing queries, and that pregnant woman's shrieks got shriller and louder. With that, this couple kept instructing Zabe to rush here and there in the garden, collecting neem leaves and clove leaves before setting them to boil. In between that bandobast, ample warnings getting thrown at us to get moving inwards. But before we could move inwards, from that open bay window, we continued seeing the woman writhing in pain. Even as Zabe tried rubbing various leafy concoctions on her bloated stomach together with rubbing her feet and legs with what looked like another of those leafy, flowery pastes. And as her shrieks intensified, so did his massaging tactics. And in between it all, the couple sat instructing him all through, helping him deliver the baby. Suddenly, a shriek before a lull of sorts, overtaken by a newborn's cry. With that, we came rushing out towards the cot. There were bloody stains spreading out, but Zay was taking care of not just the mess, but also of his wife's subdued cries. Don't know whether those cries were of relief from the exhausting labor pains, or else cries erupting out of sheer joy on seeing a newborn. Whatever be the case, this young man was managing her well, rubbing her the turmeric, garlic, clove, neem paste all over her abdomen and inner thighs, patting her back, her hair, her limbs. And as he was trying to put up a machardani on the cot so that mosquitoes don't invade, some sort of movement around the courtyard's outer gate. Before long, there stood an aging bent woman. She had walked from the adjoining mohalla with requests not just for the neem leaves and turmeric roots, and also assistance, but also assistance for the delivery of her daughter, as a midwife couldn't be fetched at that hour, middle of the night. Hakim Saab and his wife not just explained their complete exhaustion, but much to the aging bent woman's bewilderment, suggested Zabe's name. But he, a man, how can he see my daughter in the state of utter nakedness? No, impossible. How can you even suggest this? He'll cover his face. He'll be helping you bring into this world a new life. But how can he, a man, help deliver? He, a man. See, he just helped his wife deliver. See for yourself, we are only instructing him, but he took care of the actual delivery. Never heard of a man doing all this. Toba, toba. Look at the side. Look the side. His wife and baby look fine because of him. He followed all our instructions. But what will the mohalla walas say? Don't you want your poor daughter to deliver soon and safe? Deliver soon and safely. Don't waste time. We are all too exhausted. Decide or leave. Theek hai, let him help with the delivery, but you both have to come along with him. Okay, we'll come along, but we'll only sit there and instruct. Zabe will be the delivery boy. That seemed to work. From that day onwards, unemployed Zabe was more than employed. He became the much sought after delivery boy. So that's the end of the story.
Thank you, Raji. So next, I request Ms. Anupama Damayanti Godakanda. I'm sorry, probably I cannot pronounce your last name right, but please, I invite you to read from your story. Thank you.
Right. My name is Anupama Damayanti Godakanda. You pronounced it right. First of all, I must tell you, I have a lot of dogs at home. So I'm running a sort of a shelter. So sometimes they howl. So if they do that, there is nothing I can do about it. So I'm just giving you a warning that I'm not being murdered here. If you suddenly happen to hear some dogs howling. So I'm a Sri Lankan writer, and I write both in Sinhala and English, mostly in English. I write poetry, short story, and novels. This is actually my first novel, a part of my first novel I'm reading. I hope you can hear me, by the way. I hear this notification that my connection is unstable. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. No problem at all.
Yes, fine. Okay. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Very loudly. The dog is barking.
Okay, I'll try to. First of all, I must thank the Academy for giving me this opportunity, and my friend Kanchana Priyakantha for recommending me to you. This is a great opportunity, and I listened to the previous readers, and I was amazed, and I was thinking whether I should actually read mine after listening to the quality of that writing. So I'm not being offhand or anything. I really felt those three writers here. It was superb writing. The part I'm reading from comes from an autobiographical novel. So most of it is things that happen to my family. I may have tweaked the story a little bit to get the message across, but this happened to people, and in a way, I just want to tell, judgmental people what judgment can, do to people who suffer from a tragedy. And the name of the book is Someone to Blame. When a tragedy strikes, all of us want to blame somebody for the tragedy. That is, I guess, a survival mechanism. So that is why I selected that name for my novel. This is the first chapter. The fierce setting sun illuminated the no-name first room I was working in, making it unbearably stuffy, even for the month of August. With an unsheltered rooftop terrace above and two sets of French windows that could never be left open on account of the cloud of dust they allowed into the room on two sides, the room which, in the stoic, apathetic Godakanda Pereira fashion we put into multiple uses, was an architectural disaster. Of course, the blame rested squarely on my parents, who had tweaked the house plan designed free of charge by no lesser person than Vinod Jayasinghe, a student of the celebrated architect Geoffrey Bawa himself, who happened to be one of our neighbors. Once, Amma said that the poor architect had actually stopped his car on his way home and sat staring at the house in bemusement. She thought it was funny. At the moment, the room was being used mainly as a classroom for those who sought my help to better their English language, history, and literature knowledge. During off-duty hours, the room moonlighted as a library for the family. Therefore, every nook and cranny of the room was loaded down with hundreds of books in no less than 4 languages. That is, if I were to discount the two German soft porn books that somehow found their way into our collection, accumulated by 3 generations of Godakandas and Pereiras. The land phone rang in the downstairs living room. No architectural fiascos there, but I did not get up from my work as Tata was already there in the sitting room, seated in front of the TV set as usual, watching what must have been the 100th rerun of an old cricket match. Cricket was his passion, the only thing that gave him an escape from the many disappointments in his life, including the all-important fact of being born into a prudish society that insisted on monogamy. I believe that he was also disappointed in not being able to produce a son to carry on his fashionably truncated family name, as well as not having someone handy to blame it on, as in the good old days. 3 willful female children, a nagging wife with a wappish tongue, who had disallowed him from enjoying his husbandly rights most of his married life, and a pair of hands that was incapable of holding on to any of the money he had made too, must have contributed to his habit. There was also a frustrated artist in Tata. He had a beautiful singing voice, drew well, composed good poetry, and had written a drama called Paugevan Upan Minissu that had actually been successfully produced. My grandmother considered the title of the play prophetic. On top of that, he played football and tennis, swam well. He had played cricket well enough to represent Aramco cricket team while he was working in Saudi Arabia. But he sucked at any game of chance. In my opinion, Tata suffered from an identity crisis. At birth, he was named Godakanda Kankanamge Lionel and studied at Christian College in Pitakote up to GCA O-levels. All of a sudden, nationalistic fervor had overwhelmed my grandparents, and they had taken it out on my father by renaming him Nimal and sending him to a Buddhist school in Maradana, where he studied for his A-levels in Sinhala medium. The metamorphosis from a lion to a Nimal, pure, had not been serendipity for my poor father. But these things beside the point, one might say. But try as much as I can never tell a story in the linear Western fashion. As much as I admire Chekhov, I cannot bear to leave my characters almost nude at the mercy of the reader. The evaluator of the first draft of this book, I was informed, wanted me to edit out my little detours from point A to B, but then it would no longer be my story, would it? In no time, I heard him setting the receiver down with a loud thump and telling Chuti that Madhu was very sick. Her husband was taking her to the Castle Street Teaching Hospital for Women. Well, wasn't she always sick? Whenever she wanted a little attention, which was quite often, by the way, she became sick. Chuti got dressed to visit the invalid with Tata and Amma. Throughout all that, I went on with my work. After all, the money I earned kept the wolves at bay and put food on the table. So let them attend to the histrionics of their pet, I thought. Whatever she did and whatever happened to her held no importance to me whatsoever, I told myself. Not anymore. Her selfishness had cured me of any tenderness I might have felt towards her once upon a distant time, or so I thought. It took about an hour and a half for the phone to ring again. It was Chuti from the hospital. She was frightened to the extent that what she said didn't make any sense at all. Chuti was one of those people who saw full-grown crocodiles in a pot of water. All I got out of her agitated incoherence was that Madhu was bleeding like a cut pig, and the lady doctor who was in charge of the ward was demanding to know what she had done with the baby. Yes, that's what I heard. But it didn't make any sense to me. Why would the doctor ask about a baby? Incidentally, it seemed that the same question had bothered Amma too. So being a woman of no nonsense, Amma had asked the lady in question why she was babbling about a baby while her daughter was in all probability bleeding to death. The all-powerful being in return had threateningly declared that Amma would be hauled in front of the law if she dared to cover up murder. It was much later that I found that the right word for the particular deed the doctor had accused my sister of. When one killed one progeny, it was called prolicide, not murder. Shocked that a woman who looked to be younger than her eldest child should talk to her so disrespectfully. Still, Amma had tried to reason with the woman by explaining to her that her daughter indeed had two children who incidentally would hardly be called babies anymore, that were very much alive. "We found the placenta," declared the woman in white with a definite note of finality in her bid to silence the older woman who had dared to challenge her word in her own little fiefdom. "Well, it doesn't make any sense. She wasn't pregnant." Amma too was not used to her word being questioned. "Don't lie. You got together and killed it, haven't you?" It was not really a question. Almost foaming at the mouth, the eyes of that child of East Clippers had scanned the bemused faces of her victims and zeroed on the one that still projected a hint of resistance. By then, all the expectant mothers despite their delicate conditions, together with their relatives who had forgotten their ever-present fear of being forcibly evicted. It was well past the visiting time, were elbowing each other for a ringside seat for the melodrama that was unfolding in front of them. Why would we do such a thing? She's married and she already has 2 children. We don't have any reason to do something sinful like that. Despite the doctor's strenuous effort to intimidate her, Amma continued to reason with perfect logic. Maybe she was sleeping with another man. Haven't you noted any changes in her lately? The lady in white sneered a counter possibility for the consideration of the entire audience, some of whom snickered their appreciation in return. She's always been plump, Amma said, trying valiantly to retain an air of confidence despite the many eyes and ears trained on her. Oh, come on, hadn't you dropped some of your own? It's ridiculous to say you didn't know. No, I'm sure all of you are in this all together. Bring the child in or your daughter would hang, said the doctor, looking around and peering for her appreciative spectators. Some of the righteous souls who had appointed themselves as witnesses to the scene nodded their agreement to the verdict enthusiastically. Such crimes in this Dharmadvipa. The criminal should be hanged. No doubt there. The doctor was right. A shrivel-uddered woman with her palm cupping her sunken cheeks, muttered something that repeatedly looked up at something only she could see on the fly-sheet speckled ceiling beseechingly. Madhu was already convicted. For Chuti, it was like history repeating itself. She was transported against her wishes 2 years back in time. Once, she was left looking on her teenage self throughout pain-filled clouds of memories. It was close to midnight. Once again, she was lying helpless on a gunnery parked in an unobtrusive corner of the strangely silent OPD of the General Hospital Colombo, wrecked by forks of pain that tore through her middle. Where did you get the abortion done? You killed the baby, didn't you? Now you expect us to fix your little problem, don't you? Another East Clippers in white, wreathed in yet another stethoscope, thundered, splattering a consecrated air of the OPD of the General Hospital of Colombo with droplets of his spittle. She's just 17, doctor, a child. My little girl's not like that, said Amma, still reeling from the salvo of words aimed at her most sensitive core. What do you know? I'm the doctor here, preened the demigod in white. Anyway, we are on strike. And even if we weren't, nobody would want to treat her kind anyway. With those words uttered in the general direction of where the mourning girl lay worn out with pain, holding on to her wretched mother's hand, the phone was picked up to resume the interrupted conversation with somebody who was obviously waiting with bated breath to hear what the commotion was all about. Until she was transferred to Kalubovila Hospital the following day, Chuti was left crying pitifully while Amma chanted Pirit in desperation. The doctor who treated her at Kalubowila could not have been more different. It was a rare case of a ruptured ovary wall, he had explained, taking care to talk in lay terms. They had to do an emergency operation to stop the internal bleeding. The doctor had told Amma that they would do a bikini cut to minimize disfiguration. In addition, Amma was instructed by the far-thinking doctor to laminate the medical report to avoid awkward explanations in the future, to which she nodded her head in deep gratitude while wiping away tears of partial relief. Back in the present, Chuti sat down on the floor with her back against the front door and started crying as soon as she entered the house. If Amma were there, she would have told her not to make a scene that would make the family the laughingstock of the neighborhood. For some unfathomable reason, Amma was under the impression that we were not already the main source of entertainment by way of family drama for our kith and kin as well as the neighbors. Yet, she was the first to take offense at the smallest provocation and let loose a mind-boggling plethora of foul words whenever she had an attraction with someone within or without the family. But she was not there, so Chuti cried her heart out, leaning against the front door, clearly within the auditory range of our satanic neighbors with their extendable ears. Meanwhile, I stood staring at Tata and Chuti, waiting for one of them to tell me what was wrong. Bits and pieces of what had happened, as he himself had managed to gather, were related by Tata in a hurry. Some medicine had to be bought from outside. Tata had left Amma near Madhu and brought Chuti home. It was no place for Chuti. They, as usual, had realized belatedly. Do you have any money with you? I'll give it back as soon as I get the school hire money. I had some in my purse. Now about returning the money. I would have been a veritable millionaire had all the money owed by various members of my family, individually and collectively, been returned as most assiduously promised by them prior to their individual and collective acts of borrowing. I'd better stay home, take care of things, Tata suggested. Children shouldn't get to know about their Amma's condition and grandmother's. That was Tata's mother, shouldn't be told. Between Amma and father's mother, it was a classical mother-in-law, daughter-in-law conflict in action. As far as grandmother was concerned, anything that went wrong in the family was automatically Amma's fault. Telling her about Madhu's latest escapade would be like advertising our problems to all and sundry in the neighborhood and then to some in mass as well. She played down anything that happened to Aunt, her daughter by adoption, and added her own masala to whatever that plagued us, Amma said. That was her way of getting back at us for outfoxing her over a matter of a deed. Ranasinghe Arachige Dona Somavati, aka Soma Ranasinghe, my Tata's mother, had her own secrets. A woman who would pick up a cent lying on a mound of cow pie, according to Amma, had consented to raise an orphan girl. As noble as the deed was, it did not go with her general makeup. Moreover, she did not like female children. They were just loads of trouble, according to her. Therefore, the attention she showered on the child and the difficulty she had single-handedly undergone on her behalf too did not feel right. She wore beautiful Navapatta and reed hats for sale and sewed clothes for the children of her family and friends, for which I functioned as the advertisement. She sewed wonderfully intricate dresses for me to wear when we went out. She even sold the fruits of the ugurasa tree that grew in front of our house. I became quite indispensable to her during the ugurasa season, and I was nimble enough to climb up to the very top of the tree and strip the tree bare of the ripe fruits without breaking any branches or my neck in the process.
Anupama Damayanti, sorry to interrupt you because no time is to the chair to present her story. I think we are
15 minutes up. Okay, that's it then. Thank you.
No. What I would like to say that kindly conclude it in 1 minute so that the chair can present her stories too.
Sure. Sure, just 1 minute would do.
Left with only a few minutes.
Sure, 1 minute is more than enough.
Yeah, okay.
One of the 3 times my father had spanked me was for my tree climbing activities. Ultimately, my grandmother's loving kindness towards her adoptee had extended to plotting to oust her own son and her much harassed family from his paternal house in favor of the said adoptee. But that did not end the way she had anticipated, and she would not forgive Amma for her role in frustrating her efforts. To be fair, had the roles been reversed, I believe Amma would have been even less forgiving than grandmother. Madhu has a stomach problem. I offered the inquisitive octogenarian a placebo. That was all. No offers were made to visit her or to make something for the stomachache. My father's mother was thankfully predictable. That's it. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Anupama. So I don't think I have much time left. It is about 6 minutes now. So I will just give a summary of the story and sort of like read a section.
Yeah.
So, Miss,
Anna, you can take 5-10 minutes extra because
okay, ma'am. Thank you. But anyway, but I will try to keep it short.
Don't cut your story. Read it complete.
So my story, In Search of Our Roots, it was selected, given a special mention in the Best Asian Short Stories 2020 and was published in their web version. So this is a story about a young woman who discovers that her mother, who she knew that got lost during the Liberation War of 1971, is actually alive and lives somewhere else under a different name in a new family. She also discovers that her own family had kept it a secret because her mother was raped, like many other millions of women who went through that ordeal during 1971. And this is just after a strange situation that she discovered that actually her mother was alive. And so the section that I am choosing to read is where she actually goes to her mother. I mean, she finds her after a lot of search. But finally, when she reaches her, she's kind of worried that, maybe she didn't do the right thing because something that was hidden for so many years, is it the right thing to just, find her and like dig out her life history and everything. But anyway, she knocked on the door, and it's a different small town, as I said. And a young girl opened the door, and she knew that her mother had remarried and had children, had a son and a daughter. And she had seen this teenage girl, but could not think of her as her sister. It's kind of difficult for her to imagine that her mother married again. So she had been wondering all this while what she would tell the woman who had given her birth, her mother, whom life had taken away. For the first time, she also wondered if she would be welcomed by her mother and the siblings she was not even aware of a few days ago. In the dim light, Meghna, the girl, she could discern a young face that was eager and half smiling. The girl opened the door while talking to someone at the same time. No, I have homework to do. Tell Nabil I will go tomorrow. Yes, who are you looking for? The last part was for Meghna. Meghna found herself struggling to breathe. I'm looking for Mrs. Rahela Khatun, she said, faltering. That's my mother. Come in, please. The girl ushered her to a small sitting area. It was neat but rudimentary. Please sit down. Ma will be here shortly. She turned on the light and left. Meghna looked around. A sofa set made of cane. The seats were somewhat worn, and she could not help remembering the plush drawing room of her father's house, or even her own, the sunny, tastefully decorated apartment full of light and laughter that she shared with Asif, her husband. There were a few faded photographs on the bookshelf, photographs of children. There was an enamel Quran and a few other books on the top shelf. Then she heard a sound from behind. A woman of medium height stood before her. She wore a light cotton sari. My daughter said you have come looking for me. Did Alokesh send you? Meghna had no idea who Alokesh was, but since she didn't know what to say, she played along. Yes, my son isn't here today. He went to his uncle's house and will be back tomorrow. Excuse the light in this room, the voltage is running low. Meghna looked carefully at the woman who now sat down on the sofa across from her. She was wearing a pale blue or green printed cotton sari. The light was so low it could be anything. She wore glasses and she had a thin face. Her hair was half hidden under the achal that was drawn over her head and draped across her shoulder. Meghna noticed a pair of thin gold bangles on her wrists. She could be anybody's mother. She remembered her mother who raised her, who shone at the center of her household. Meghna suddenly felt guilty. Was it wrong to have come here? I expected someone older, Rahila Khatun was saying. Alokesh said that you wanted to meet my son. My son is studying economics at Chittagong University. He's a brilliant student. I'm brilliant too, thought Meghna. I graduated with distinction from the University of Chicago. But she didn't say anything. He's the top student in his class. He always was, the woman continued. Meghna suddenly blurted out. And your daughter? The woman paused and smiled. She's still a child, will sit for her higher secondary exams next year. But she is very bright too. Meghna faltered. So you have only 2 children? Was there a faraway look in her mother's eyes? Her voice suddenly turned forceful. Yes, I have 2 children, Rahat and Rimjin. What about their father? Meghna asked slowly. Somehow she could not think of the man as her husband. He died 2 years ago. So your son is not at home? He was supposed to arrive today, but he missed the train and will come home tomorrow. I guess I should go now and come back another day. Meghna suddenly wanted to run. She rose from her seat. I suppose so. What's your name, you said? I didn't say anything, but my name is Meghna. She waited to see some reaction, but the woman only said, that's the name of a river. Yes, a pause. Meghna couldn't bear it any longer. I am from Dhaka, she blurted out. I don't know anything about Alokesh. I came to see you. She stopped, not knowing what else to say. Rahila Khatun tilted her head up to take a good look at the tall woman standing before her. Was there recognition in her eyes? Meghna could not decipher the expression on her face. The lone dim light bulb did not allow for fine discrimination. Rahila Khatun slowly stood up. She said abruptly, you've come a long way. Does your father know? Yes, Meghna whispered. You're married? Meghna nodded. Children? Not yet. Rahila Khatun suddenly looked tired. I have 2. That's all I have. Meghna waited to hear more, but nothing more was forthcoming. She hesitated and asked, shall I come tomorrow, perhaps? There was no reply. The silence was prolonged. A moth fluttered around the light bulb, its wings flickering. Finally, she heard one word, go. Suddenly, Meghna felt as if she was outside her own body. She hurried out of the house and started walking at a brisk pace. After taking about 20 steps, she looked back and saw the backlit silhouette standing at the door. One hand seemed to clasp the door frame and the other hand hung limp by her side. Her head was inclined slightly to the left and the pose seemed achingly familiar. Meghna half expected to be called back, but she heard nothing. She turned around and ran. The air was crisp and clear, and there was the rich, earthy scent of fresh cut grass all around her. Meghna looked at the red dirt road and waited patiently for the microbus to arrive. Her work was here done. She understood now what her husband Asif had meant. She shouldn't have interfered. Rahila was content with her life and her 2 children she has now. Meghna has no right to uproot them. How silly she had been thinking that she could somehow save them. They had their own life, and Meghna was not welcome in it. But then, did she have place for Rahila in her world? Where in the constellation of her life would she make space for her birth mother and the mother who raised her and loved her all these years? Could she just call her father a coward and forget that he loved her and gave her everything her father could? She had taken on the journey to find her lost mother, to find the truth. Now that she found her, she almost wished she hadn't. While boarding the plane, she rehearsed her line. If anybody asked a question, it was a false trail. it was someone else, not Miranabar. So that's it. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the extra time.
So thank you so much.
It was really wonderful. It was really a wonderful session to be here.
Thank you, Dr. Sohana Manzoorji, for minimizing yourself for the sake of other who.
It happens.
It's a great gesture on your part. And thank you so much, all the writers, right from Ms. Jharna Rahmanji from Bangladesh, Ms. Indu Menanji from India, and Ms. Hamra Qureshi ji from India, and Anupama Damayanti ji, Goda Khanda from Sri Lanka. Thank you so much for making this program much more vibrant and beautiful. In fact, I thought to present my own story, but there is no time to present, so let it be. So thank you so much, Ajit Kaur ma'am, for sparing your time. For the better cause, for a noble cause, and I sincerely thank all the participants of this 8th session that was dedicated for fiction. On behalf of Dr. K. Srinivasa Rao ji, Secretary Sahitya Academy, I once again thank all of you, and especially on behalf of Ajit Kaur ma'am, who is a real source of inspiration to all of us to do many more things in our life. So thank you so much, and thank you all the viewers for participating in this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.